Guys, welcome back to the page. First and foremost, thank you for spending some time with me today. And I'm Mike Michelle, and this page is all about helping young men with ideas get focused on those ideas, build a solid financial foundation so those ideas can then turn into action. You're at a stage early in your God damn, my mouth dry. Shit. You're at the early stages of your entrepreneurial ventures, and you have a multitude of ideas that you want to pursue. You don't know which idea is going to click, which idea is going to work. So what I'm here to help you do is give you the ability to throw all those ideas at the wall, to give yourself enough time to pursue those ideas, to accumulate some wins along the way to keep that momentum going forward. So this page is all about doing foundational work. Now, let's get into one of the ventures that I pursued that ultimately worked for me, that allowed me to take care of my needs, which are all my bills, allowed me to buy some of my time back so I can pursue that passion project that I had. And that venture is real estate. Now, in the real estate, the business that I put into it was Airbnb, which is a hospitality business. And if you're not hospitable, then you better become hospitable real fast, because there's no venture that you're going to go out there and pursue that doesn't require you to go be warming and friendly to strangers. Because one thing I can tell you now is that you just never know where your alley-oop, you never know where your assistance is going to come from along your entrepreneurial journey. If this is one of the ventures that you want to pursue, I'm going to speak about some tips that you can utilize and implement if you take this journey into hospitality. Now, before we go any further, I would like to say this. The tips that I'm about to give is particularly speaking to individuals that have 1 to 3 Airbnb properties and that own their properties. So I'm not really into arbitrage. It puts you back into a working position where somebody else is controlling your variables. That's what I was looking to get away from when I was looking to leave the 9 to 5. I want to control as many variables in my life as possible. And I don't feel like arbitrage did that. And I also wanted the upside to the business. And for me, arbitrage did not do that. If you don't know what arbitrage is, it's simply you get leases on somebody else's property, and then you go put it on short-term rental booking website. And those leases can be, 1, 2 years or whatever it may be. Now, everything has pros and cons. But one of the things I will say is you cannot determine the future. And when I got into Airbnb, COVID hit. So therefore, what started to happen? The world started to shut down. People started to not travel. I already had a game plan on if these things go south, what I'm going to do. I'm going to pivot from short-term rental into professionals. And then I also have the opportunity to put in long-term tenants, right? That is what me owning the properties gave me the ability to do. Yes, if you do arbitrage, you have the ability to do that. However, you're probably going to get the short end of the stick because you ran all your numbers with these high margins of returns. And now you got back into a position where you're working. You're going over there to cut the grass. You're going over there to deal with problems, and you're not seeing all the money. So now you're back in what? The same mode that you were in when you were just getting the check. And I just don't feel like it's a lot of upside to it. I went on a little tangent, but I'll get right back on track, all right? So the very first tip is don't buy your dream house out the gate, because you're going to have a lot of sentimental attachment to it. Now remember, what we're doing here is we're trying to buy you back some time. I'm not trying to give you more bills. I'm trying to have somebody else pay for the bills. My intentions out the gate when I went to go buy the properties was to follow the rules. I had to reside in those properties for a year and turn that into an investment property so somebody else is paying the bills. But if it's just for you to live in it and say, I'm too grown for roommates, then you're just getting another bill. And that's why you often see a lot of individuals saying, hey, I'm house poor. It was a mistake buying a house, is because that bill is still mine. I didn't subsidize it in any way by bringing in roommates. I didn't subsidize it in any way by putting a business in it. Tip 2, don't do what other hosts are doing. And the reason why I say that is not from a systematic standpoint. I'm speaking from a numbers standpoint. Go on Airbnb and you go see what other people are pricing their properties at. don't use that as a metric. And the reason why I say that is because you will never know all the variables on why somebody made a decision that they're making. So for example, like myself, you own the property. Now I do most of my cleaning. My AC unit just went out. So this month I've already spent $7,500, and that's not even including the mortgage. Another mishap happened right after that, and I decided to lower my rates between $55 and $90. I got somebody to book it for 3 nights. That's $333.32 that came in. That allowed me to get payment the next day and pay something else. Now, if you are a host and you saw that price, you may lower your rate to that price, but you don't know all the variables on why I made that decision. And the reason why I made that decision is because I run my properties like a business. Any vacancy is not successful for me. I don't leave any money on the table. That's still $333 that came in to the business. Tip 3 is to ensure that your response rate is high. And the reason why I say this is because, you hear these videos saying, is Airbnb going out of business? Is Airbnb going out of business? Well, you're not in the Airbnb business, you're in the hospitality business. And consumers have an expectation when it comes to hospitality. If I'm used to staying at a hotel, I'm accustomed to being in my room. If I have an issue, I'm going to pick up the phone and call the receptionist. Or I can go downstairs and see an actual person. So ensure that your response rate stays high, but most important, make sure your first 3 touch points are personable. After that, once they arrive, everything is automated after that. Once again, this is individuals who own properties from 1 to 3 properties. Now, if you have a big portfolio, then, I'm not really speaking to you. Tip number 4 is pretty straightforward. Get it into your mind that you cannot please every guest. Tip number 5 is work on next month's calendar this month. And what I mean by that is you have a quota or set a quota for yourself. And my quota, I've met it already. I'm in May, I've met June's quota already. But here's a little bonus, right? Is if you get a guest that is unhappy, I can begin to drop my prices more towards my lower end because I've met my quota and I want to fill those vacancies up. Do not put in a review for that guest until the 14th day. I believe it's 14 days that they'll give you for you to put in a review. Now remember, I also said start working on next month's booking, right? And if you were to put in that review and her review was to come up and it was a bad review, then it's going to affect at least your next few bookings. Oh, another bonus. If you have a issue, for example, they had a dog come in and it was here and there and they didn't tell you about it, do not request the money for the matter until they leave. And you've given them enough time to put in a review, no matter how happy that customer was. The moment you point out something wrong that they did, they will find something wrong with your property, because now we go into this defense mode and I will find something wrong with the property because my only objective now is to hurt you. So wait until the very last day that Airbnb allows for you to request those funds and ensure that you do what you should do, which is have proper documentation. And if you're in the right, you will get your money. So that's another way for you to avoid bad reviews when really you shouldn't be getting a bad review. This is a good segue into number 6, which is have cameras, but more importantly, have cameras, and I mean outside of the house, all right, not in the house. All right, don't be that person. Have cameras outside of the house and check your cameras within the first 10 minutes of your customers arriving. The reason why is because consumers do all they can to get around additional cost. And you will see on the camera if additional guests that was not put on the itinerary is there. So for example, once you get past 6 guests, there's an additional $40 per night for those additional guests. Also, if you have a pet there's a pet fee for the times that I do allow pets, which is typically during the slow seasons. What I typically do is I check my cameras or I replay my recordings and I look to see if any of those things are being violated. I'll take my screenshots and I present that when I am looking for my reimbursement. Tip number 7 is during the slow seasons, if you're not doing your cleaning and slow season is coming or approaching, maybe you scale back on your cleaners. Let them do 50% of the cleaning and you do 50% of the cleaning. And you can save some revenue and reallocate that towards anything else. Also, during slow season, you typically want to have longer stays. One of the things that I do is I would provide my long-term stays with monthly cleanings. And this is for my benefit. And the reason why is because what this does for you when you do the cleaning for long-term tenants is it allows you to go in the house, look around, make sure they're not, messing anything up, and see what's going on with your property. And more importantly, it allows you to go in and do some basic cleaning. So when they do leave at the end of 3, 6 months, or whatever the term may be, the deep cleaning that you will more than likely need when they leave. Now, here's the story. I had a nurse come in. She was paying me $2,500. This was during my very first season. And I didn't know what I didn't know. She came in. She had her husband, who was a stay-at-home dad, her child, and she paid for one pet, which was a cat. I remember like it was yesterday. She was a nurse. And it just so happened that they were going to be there for 3 months, and then they extended it, and this was during COVID, they extended it for another 3 months, so they were there in total 6 months. Either the water heater went out or something went out. Thank God. I had to go into the house. I came back into town, I went into the house. Do you know that there was a whole zoo in the house? 3 cats, 2 hamsters, and a goldfish. Yeah, whole zoo. Where did all these pets come from? She does not need that much entertainment. Now, what's even worse is when you have long-term tenants, oftentimes none of them are doing any kind of cleaning. So when all that guck builds up at the bottom of the shower, that's all you when you go in. It's all your cleaners when you go in. And that average fee that you typically get charged gets double or triple because that's deep cleaning now. But anyway, I walk into the parents' room because there was an AC unit. That's what I remember. Because I had to take the guy upstairs to go into the AC unit. The walls were getting wet. And that's how I discovered the zoo that was in the house. The guy goes upstairs. So I go into the other room to see if it's heating, if it's hot in there, the master room. This is where the parents are staying. Do you know, I look up at the ceiling fan, and there is clumps of hair all on the ceiling fan. I mean, I'm talking about clumps. Now, the reason why I was so disappointed as I go on this side story is it's 2 grown adults that's laying in this bed that wakes up every morning, looks up, and look at each other and both decide to say, oh, that's fine. We can breathe that in. That's okay. No one's going to wipe it off. That's why I was disappointed. But anyway, I'll get back on track. And the reason why I told you that story is that's hence the reason why. Go in. It allows you to check your environment, ensure everything is okay, and that you can avoid the deep cleaning, especially if you're the one that's doing the cleaning. Guys, I went on a little tangent, but I'm back and I only have 2 more for you. I think this next one is the most important one, and that is know your market. Know your market, understand your market in and out. right? Understand your slow seasons. Understand when it's slow season, who are you now marketing to? Understand, because it's very easy to think that you're doing all the right things during peak season. I'll give you an example. I strategically went into the hospitality business during the peak season. I had 3 months to purchase the properties and get into it, furnish it, and get into it right before peak season. For me, peak season is football season, where I'm at. So therefore, the money's flowing in, good reviews. I'm doing everything right. I didn't, all the research I did, I didn't really know anything about slow season. So when that came around, I had to learn that, hey, there's legislation in this area. During the summer times, there's a lot of international students coming here to use the Mac Lab. I don't really have to worry about peak season, football season, because that's going to take care of itself. During this period of time, there's a lot of parents that's going to come drop off their kids. I understand the verbiage that I need to use for each one of those demographics. There's 2 major schools here, FAMU and FSU, and I've realized that a lot of the individuals that I attract or book my places are not FAMU alumni or individuals. There are a lot of FSU, so I no longer have to use certain verbiage. I'm not going to say, hey, this unit is 1.2 miles away from FAMU, because my customers aren't looking for that. You see, so really get to understand your market, really get to know your market, and speak to other hosts. And I wish I would have done that early on. Speak to other hosts and see, because you're not really competing with other hosts, because your variables are going to be different from them. If there's any combination of things that's going to allow you to thrive in being in the hospitality business, it's going to be location, being hospitable, and being fair in your prices. And the final one, guys, is now this. Once again, this is what works for me. I would recommend you do not reply to reviews. And I'm not really saying this because of the good reviews. I'm really saying this because of the bad reviews that eventually at some point in time you will get. It's a numbers game. You will get. Out of 293 reviews, I believe I have, I've gotten bad reviews. And the reason why I say this is because I don't reply to any reviews. And the reason why I say this is because your natural inclination, just as a human, is to defend yourself. It's to defend yourself. So now if you go on to a review and say, hey, I did this, that, and the third, and I gave you a reimbursement, and you're defending yourself as a customer now, think as a customer, if you were to go on that person's booking, and you were to read the reviews and you were to see that, you would probably think that that person is what? Confrontational, and they're not taking accountability, and you're probably going to move on to the next place. And that's the reason why I say I don't, reply to reviews, because proof's in the pudding. If it's a good review, you did great. If it's a bad review, you can't make everyone happy. As I said earlier, you just can't. But the proof's in the pudding, and the way that you treat them, they will mention it. They will mention it. And oftentimes you're not meeting the individuals that's coming into your place, especially if you have a few properties and you don't reside next door within that community on where your properties are. You're probably not. So I've learned that what customers really want to say to you, they will leave it in the private note. And most of the times what they put in the public note is, just being courteous, to be honest with you, being courteous to some extent. So I hope this was helpful. Like always, guys, if you have not heard this today, this week, if you have not said it to yourself, I'm proud of you. You're putting in the work, you showed up, and you're doing the work. Until next time, take care.